So, hi, I'm KB with the Beat. How are both of you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
We love your background.
Yes.
Thank you,
Part
thank
of
you.
planning.
I had to come correct with my trio of the dreams. So what a wild ride and unique adaptation. Let me tell you, you guys had me sweating by the time I got to episode 8. I was like, what is going to happen?
Good.
Great. Success.
Yeah.
So, my first question is for you, Beth. Kind of which character arc did you find yourself kind of identifying with the most in this first season? And kind of what's your identification with this character, arguably one of your favorite parts of bringing this adaptation to life?
Well, I would say I'm kind of a combination of a few characters, but in terms of the character I relate to the most is Charles. Not his backstory. I have to be clear about that. A wonderful father. But just in terms of someone who kind of looks on the bright side of thing and tries to make everyone else happy and kind of pushes their own problems down and ignores them until it blows up into not necessarily in a murder home, but in other ways.
Oh, goodness. Well, yes, I'm glad not in a murder home.
Yeah, not in a
Yes.
murder home.
I'm
Not yet.
glad. I'm glad not in a murder home. Yeah. Thank you.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. But I'm glad that you said that because I do appreciate how you guys made sure that Crystal and specifically Crystal, but also Edwin in some ways, were really kind of allowing him the space to feel all of the things that he
Yeah.
felt,
Sure.
and to kind of iron out and work through those issues, particularly when it came to his father. So appreciate that answer. And so for you, Steve, obviously there are so many heavy themes this season. We have death, we have torture, we have stalking, we have these complex familial relationships, and we even have hell itself, right? But on the other hand, you have some of the best comedic one-liners from Niko, I might add, that I have not seen, that I've seen on television in a while. So can you talk a little bit about how you balance kind of all of the elements of this show, from the comedy to the horror to the adventure, with such kind of relevant and important themes? And what was the most challenging, I guess, story arc to kind of mold and craft this season?
I think that what we're doing with tone, the thing that makes the show exciting to us, and definitely to me as the creator, is the friction that's created when you kind of force the different genres together. And so for us, we've created a darkly comedic horror mystery. We like to say it's the Hardy Boys on acid, which I feel like we've accurately captured. That sort of psychedelic element from the comic book and the way it's laid out on the page, we were able to carry it over without being slavish to it. And I think it's the when you use things like Nico's humor, the sprites, Jenny's kind of deadpan, when the humor can come in, it allows you to go darker in other areas of the show. And this show wants to go darker. It starts at a certain place and then just kind of does a downhill slide in tone all the way towards the finale, or at least towards episode 7. And so we feel good. It's all plotted and it's all planned. And the fact that it's firing on all cylinders, I think, is just a testament to sort of the trust that the rest of the crew and department heads and everybody and studio and network put into Beth and I, in terms of, yes, this will work, and believing us when we said that. Yeah.
Ooh, I love it. Okay, my final question for both of you, and Beth, you can answer first. Listen, this journey begins with Crystal kind of trying to get her memories back, and in some ways that is resolved, but we are left with a whole new set of questions by the end of season 1. So my question to both of you is, was this strategic? Did you always know from the beginning kind of that Crystal's true nature would be sort of the antithesis of how we've grown to kind of know and love her over the course of this season?
Yes. The answer is yes, that was the plan. And for us, because one of our larger themes in season 1 is identity, it was so interesting to see what would happen to someone who actually, wasn't a super nice person when they lose their memory and they get paired with two people. She has her found family of two dead, they're dead people, but they do good for the world. And so they kind of make her better. And so then when she realizes who she is, then she's got to struggle and figure out, wait, am I this person I was before I met this group? And all these things that happened to me season 1 that informed a different side of her. So that there's a lot of rich story to play with if we were to be so lucky to get another season.
Yeah, it's sort of, it was really fun to go, okay, here's a not nice person who has sort of a foundational trauma, which is the way that her parents treat her. When you remove her memory of that trauma, all of a sudden she's free to just be a regular girl and meet these boys and learn all these things and have these kinds of positive experiences. So then all of a sudden she remembers all of that stuff, and she's stuck now being two people, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Not that having your memory taken away and given back, but the idea of having to live your life as two separate people and what that means.
First, let me just say I absolutely adore your friendship on the show. Just what a rich journey your characters go on this first season. I love it. So I will start with you, Jayden. My first question really is, what do you think Charles teaches Edwin? And how does he really help Edwin kind of lean into his full self during the course of this first season?
Such a great question. I think at the start of the series, and I can actually pull out a scene in particular, it's the boxing scene. Edwin, I think, is very, likes to plan things out. He very much likes to know what's going to be happening. And I feel like Charles brings out that spontaneous side of him and makes him do things that he wouldn't normally do, like boxing or whatever else they do. I think they find this great balance in each other of whatever one lacks, the other makes up for. I think it works the same way, Edwin kind of keeps Charles in his place a bit and says to him, no, you need to maybe slow down and plan it out, and maybe we'll take it step by step. And Charles is just like, nah, we'll just rock up and see what happens.
I feel like as well, it's with the arrival of Crystal, and then Charles obviously takes a liking to Crystal. I think Edwin's first reaction is jealousy, and I think that kind of propels him on his journey when it comes to love and lust and all of that malarkey.
But I love that you said that, because it is true. They have very much a push and pull relationship in so many ways. And for you, George, I do want to ask a little bit more. How do you feel that Edwin kind of challenges Charles this season? Because I do think that Charles has such a unique worldview compared to Edwin's. And so it's interesting to see that dichotomy over the course of the first season.
Right. I think that's a great question. And I think we spoke a lot about, actually, before even the pilot. Even though we come from very set time periods, we have spent 30 plus years in each other's company. So I think whether it's conscious or subconscious, we would have adopted one another's habits.
Yeah, they create their own timeline of whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think if Edwin, if there was a world where we saw Edwin meet Charles and then start up the agency, I think Edwin might correct his language or try and make him stand more straight. But
what does he say in episode 2? He's like, "Your dad would have called me an unlicked
cub." Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's actually that scene that's your backdrop.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I think he challenges him where he needs to, but they kind of have this almost telepathy at this point. They are the yin to the other's yang.
Yeah, I love that. I love the telepathy. That is true. It's almost like they can finish each other's thoughts and sentences in some instances, which
we
is
do
really
that anyway.
We do.
As Jayden and George, so that was quite easy doing it on screen as well.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so my last question is for both of you. And obviously, Dead Boy Detective has such rich history and a rich IP to work from. So, when you first signed on, whose character arc were you most excited to see come to fruition this first season other than your own? And I'll start with you, Jayden.
I always just go back to Jenny. She's actually my favorite character in the whole show, and the way she starts off quite like this, and you see Niko and Crystal kind of break down that hard exterior, and you find out that deep down she is really loving and caring and has just kind of been on her own and isn't used to these people being around her. Her whole journey she goes on, the person she is from the start compared to the end, yeah, she is just my favorite. And I love Brie as well. So
I love Brie. I would say Esther. It's, it's very clear from the pilot. I'd like, okay, this is our villain of the season, but I think what Jen does so immaculately is she's always beyond likable. She's lovable. She's a lovable character, and there's so much comedy there, but there's also like a lot of nuance, and we really feel for her, especially like I felt for her just before she kills Niko. Do you know what I mean?
You're there like getting tortured as well.
Yeah, like she really runs both sides of the coin. So yeah, my answer would be Esther for sure.
Ooh, I love it. I love both answers, but I will say that Jenny has a special place in my heart too. So listen, I absolutely adore your friendship on this show. It is really so lovely to just kind of witness each of your characters come into your own in such unique ways. And I definitely do mean unique. So I will start with you first, Kassius. So what do you think Crystal teaches Niko, and how does she help Niko kind of lean into her full self during the course of this season?
I think she's very protective of Niko, and Crystal has quite strong boundaries, probably too strong, because she's been hurt and she builds up a wall, whereas Niko doesn't really have like boundaries like that. So I feel like maybe Crystal's kind of the boundary around like Niko in a way, to kind of like, I don't know, I feel like that's probably how I'd put it.
Oh, like the protective layer, a little bit of
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And for you, Yuyu, in what ways do you think Niko challenges Crystal this season in terms of helping kind of Crystal expand her worldview a little bit more?
I think Niko tries to show Crystal that it's really okay to be vulnerable and have feelings and let that exist on your chest, but also for her like real search and yearning for her identity and like to find her family, Niko has kind of taken a step back, and by watching how important it is for Crystal to connect with her mother, it also allows her to connect with her mother. So they do give each other and give and take, and this relationship really blossoms as the episodes go on.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. So my next question is actually for both of you. Obviously, Dead Boy Detective has such rich IP and history. So when you guys signed on, whose character arc were you most excited to see come to fruition this season other than your own? And I can start with you, Kassius.
I was hoping I'll get more time to think. I don't know. There's so like, as the show develops and as we were filming, I was still intrigued, obviously, to read what happens to Crystal, but also to see what happens to everyone else. I'm so invested in everyone else's lives, like in the show. I think I was most interested in seeing Edwin, how he, I don't know how much to say, how he handles where his character goes as the season progresses. Yeah, that's probably my pick, I'd say.
Maybe in terms of the love, I'm not going to spoil it, but just how he...
Maybe. It may or may not be about that, yeah.
And what about for you, Yuyu?
Knowing that their friendship between the two boys is so strong, and like, how else can it get stronger and richer? And seeing where it ends up, I think just shows that there's always depth to friendship. It's more than just being chums and like being, besties, that two people can really grow individually, but both together.
Oh, I love that. Listen, I will say George and Jayden said Jenny and Esther. So, they said that.
You're causing some drama now.
Yeah. Listen, I feel this because, listen, Jenny has a special place in my heart. I think the journey that she goes on. But truly, I feel like you, Kassius, I've been invested. I have seen the entire season. I was invested in everyone's journey because it's so unique. And while they're intertwined, I think everyone has their own things that they're going through, and there's so much growth that happens for all of your characters this season. So I cannot wait for audiences to see, and just thank you so much for taking the time to chat with the Beat. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.